Hey guys, my name is Hannah and I would say, let's have some fun today. Okay, today I want to do a somewhat of a random video, you could say, because I looked at my Natasha Denona collection because I recently bought me a newer palette in my collection that you will also see in this video right here. And I thought, hey, I have now so many Natasha Denona palettes, why not do a ranking? And yes, the new palette will also be in this video and I will show you a quick look with this palette. So maybe you can guess right now which it is because I have it on my eyes right now. But without further ado, and if it sounds good and interesting to you, stay tuned and let's get right into the ranking. Okay, I don't just have the midi-sized palettes from Natasha Denona. I put every palette that I have in this ranking because it's much more fun that way, I have the feeling. So let's do this. On the last place is, I think I have 13 palettes. Let me check for a second. Yeah, I have 13 palettes. So on 13th place is my mini Natasha Denona Mini Love palette right here. The time that I had it, I didn't have that many Natasha Denona palettes in my collection. And for that time, it was my, you could say, almost #1 palette. Not really, but almost, you know. But now that I have more and more palettes in my collection from her, this palette didn't get much use, to be honest, because I don't feel the need to grab for this one. I have those colors in other palettes from her, and I don't know, I have so many rosy tones in my collection that I never feel the need to pull this out. The only time when I'm really pulling this out nowadays is for this whitish metallic type of shade right here, because when I'm in a need for a much more lighter shade and the palette is not offering it in the moment that I'm using, I will grab for this one and take this light shade out of here because it's a beautiful inner corner shade. But other than that, I never really gravitate towards this one. So yeah, never feel the need to reach for this one. And so this is for me personally on the last place because it's based on my personal preference, guys. So just that you know, I love all my palettes that I have, all my Natasha Denona palettes, but I have preferences, you know. For some I grab more because I'm feeling them a little bit more in the moment, and for some I grab less because I don't feel them that much in the moment. But it can all change, you know. But just that you know, I love the formulation from Natasha Denona and I love every palette that I have. Every. And I don't have a problem with any of the formulations from those palettes. So just that you know. But yeah, this would be on the last based on my personal preference. Number 12 is my Natasha Denona Love Face palette. This pinky one right here. Just the reason is there are so many matte shades and just one glittery shade that is very, very beautiful, guys. But to be honest, I'm a glittery girl. I want some glitter in my palette. And this is just not enough for me personally. And also the shades aren't that many in here. And I wouldn't take this one necessarily for travel because it's just not enough variety for me personally. Even though I love rosy pink type of shades, I don't have the feeling that this palette is giving me much variety. That being said, I love that you have right up here some things for the face, a highlighter and a blush. And the blush is very creamy and I heard mixed opinions about this very pink blush, but I personally really, really love and like it. And the highlight is a little bit too dark for me, but as in topper, it's workable. So yeah, all in all, I'm not mad. I got this palette on sale, so I didn't pay that much for it. So I don't mind to have it in my collection. I really like it, but it's not my favorite compared to the other ones that I have. Same story with the Natasha Denona Glam Face palette that I have right here. So it's the same story. Here I have a little bit more of metallic-y shades. When I'm wearing it on the eyes, I love my eye look. It's so sultry, so beautiful. I have the dark one because I got the dark one on a good deal. So I thought, why not? And to be honest, I love more richer tones anyway. So I was really excited for the darker palette. So yeah, I'm really happy that I have it, but it's on this place because it's very monochromatic. It's not much variety. But on the other hand, I also have more monochromatic palettes that are higher up. So I don't know, you know, it has to be somewhere, so it's here, but when I have it on the eyes, I love it. I think it's here because in comparison to the other ones, I don't use it that much in the moment, even though I really like it. But I have so many brown shades, so many bronzy shades in my collection that, yeah, it's not that often in my rotation. But I really, really like it and I need to use it a little bit more. I realized right now, but I love it. But it's not as good as my other palettes from Natasha Denona, you know? Okay, next place would be my Natasha Denona pastel palette. Same story, guys. I really, really like it, but it's very, very light on the eyes. And in the moment, I prefer something. I love lightness, don't get me wrong. You can see the type of eyeshadow I'm wearing is on the most sultry but light side at the same time. But I don't know, I don't gravitate towards pastels in the moment. They are not giving me what I need in the moment. And yeah, so I never used this one. I think this year I didn't use this one once, so I really need to. But I don't know. I think if I want to use pastels, I often go to my Cosmic Brushes palette or to my Harajuku palette from Nomad Cosmetics. And I don't think that much of this palette, but I really need to use it a little bit more because I think it's a lovely palette. There are some shades that don't give me enough oomph, you know, but you can make it work. You can layer them, you can make them a little bit more there. In the end, there are pastels, and I think it's a lovely pastel palette. They need to be light and airy. And I really like when I do a look with it, but I don't use it that much in the moment. So that's why this is on the 10th place. The 9th place is my Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. I really did go back and forth because I like this palette so much, but I don't use it that often. This summer I wanna change that. I put it in my summer palettes I really wanna use. It's a beautiful palette when I'm wearing it and I really, really like it. So I wanna make the most out of it, but it needs to be ranked a little bit lower because I just don't use it that much in the moment. But don't get me wrong, I love the colors in here. It's my type of color story, you can bet on it. Really, really like it. I love to use cool and warm tones. I love both. And you also have one shade that is a little bit cooler. I love that it's a little bit more contrasty that way. So yeah, I really like it. I love that you can make it light, that you can make it bold. It's higher than my other ones that I showed you, but it's lower than the ones that are coming next because I need to use it a little bit more. But all in all, I think it's lovely, but it's an older type of formulation from Natasha Denona, you know, and I think where she's really shining is her newer type of formulation. So I think it's not a palette that is deserved to be that high, but also not too low. So it's a little bit more in the middle, you could say. On 8th place is my Natasha Denona Zendo palette. I know there are so many mixed reviews about this palette, but I really, really like it. I think every time I'm using it, it's not glimmery or shimmery in that way, but it's really beautiful wet looking and so metallic-like and very, very nice. And it's like the name is applying also a little bit of that Zen type of feel, you know. It's not in your face, but it's giving your eyes a beautiful look in the end when you're using this palette. Really love it. Love that cool and warm tones are on this palette. Love to mix them up as well. I especially love to use this beautiful warm teddy bear type of brown and mix it with the blue. I love that combination so much. It's a stunning combination. I think my favorite in this palette. But I love all in all every shade in here except for the shade Calm. This shade is almost giving me nothing sometimes, so I wish that this shade would be replaced with the other shade, but all the other shades, they are stunning. And I really love this palette. I think it's something a little bit more different for Natasha Denona, a little bit more, you know, something that is not that expected for a palette from her. So I love that it's so rumbly up, but in a curated way, if you know what I mean. So I think it's a beautiful palette and I really enjoy my time with this one. Okay, the palette that needed to be a little bit higher up because I get so many compliments whenever I'm wearing this palette is my Natasha Denona Socoloco palette. This palette, guys, this palette is so stunning. I think this palette is more rumbled up than my Zendo palette. This is really a rumbled up palette. But I never have a problem to create a look with this one. I don't know why. It's every time so intuitive for me to go in there to make something fun or even something monochromatic. I love both ways with this palette and I think it's beautiful, especially this snow cone and aerialist shade. I think they are chef's kiss, and also those really orangey types of shades. I think they are stunning. All in all, I think this is a very beautiful palette also for summer. I think I forgot to put this one in my summer palettes that I want to use this year. But this is a palette also that I really want to use this summertime because it's so stunning. And I really want to play a little bit more with color again. It's getting a little bit lost in the moment for me, I have the feeling. On the other hand, yesterday I played with blue, so you know what? I'm still good with that. But I really want to play a little bit more with this one. And I think it's a stunning palette and it deserves to be a little bit higher up. It's a little bit big. I will never get through those shades, I have the feeling. But it's not really my journey, you know, to get through some shades. I have so many things in my collection. And I'm not mad if I don't get through. I just want to play with them. I want to have the feeling I played enough with them, you know? So really want to play with this one as well. And it's a beautiful palette and it's really a palette that gives me all the feels in terms of creativity. So I really like this one. On 6th place, we have the Natasha Denona Retro palette. It's also a midi palette. I think this palette is beautiful. It's monochromatic as well, but you have a little bit of variety at least. You have some shades that are going more into the berry tone direction, some shades that are going more in that, more rosy gold tone direction and pink direction, and also a little bit of, you know, a gunmetal-y type of shade in here, so you can make different looks with it. I also have a 3 looks video with this palette right here, and I think in that video you really can see the variety with this palette, even though it's looking like a very monochromatic type of palette. So this is something I really appreciate as well with this one. Love every time my eye look, love how sultry and interesting and sexy my eye look is getting with this one. But again, I also can make it fairly light if I want to. So yeah, I'm very much in love with it, and it's just a palette that deserves to be very high up. So yeah, I really like this one. Number 5 is my Natasha Denona Gold palette. Yes, guys. I love it, don't get me wrong. I think it's a beautiful palette. And if you had asked me some years ago, I would say this is my number 1. But now that my collection is getting bigger and bigger, it's not really my number 1 anymore. I love every time my eye look with this one. It was my first ever Natasha Denona palette and it was a gift from my boyfriend as well. It's beautiful memories I have with this palette and I still use this palette. But it's very monochromatic. You always will get a goldeny, bronzy type of look, which I really love. Don't get me wrong. I love a bronzy type look. And you get a little bit of variety with those blues and greens here. And it's a beautiful formulation, a stunning formulation. That's because the palette is high up. But it's just not my number 1. You know, when it comes to variety, things I'm looking for in the moment or things that I want in the moment, it's not the number 1 palette I'm grabbing towards. But nevertheless, I really love it. I think it's beautiful and like I said, still to this day I'm using this gold palette right here. So I really like it. But it's just not, when I think about it from the feels from within, you know, it's not my number 1. But I really love it. That being said. And number 4 is my Natasha Denona Sunset palette. It was also in the palettes I want to use for the summertime. It's a little bit higher up than the gold palette just because, you know, I get a little bit more variety. The only downside you could say to the gold palette is that you don't get that much variety in terms of texture. In the gold palette, you have so many different textures to play with, and I really appreciate and love something like that. Here you have just solid metallics, but I really love my eye look every time I'm using this palette, and I think it's beautiful. Didn't use it enough. I really need to use it a little bit more, but I like it. I really like it, and I put it very high because I think many people underrate this palette, or maybe for some this is not the palette to spend that much money on. I understand, I also bought it on sale. Trust me, I don't think I would bought it full price because it's just, you see it in the internet and you think, what is so special about it? But once you have it in your hand and you make an eye look with it, the eye look is every time turning out so beautiful, it's so blendable and stunning. And I really appreciate the mattes in this one a little bit more, with that being said, than in the gold palette. This is also something I think they're a little bit better in here. And there are solid metallics and they're staying the whole day on the eyes, so I'm very appreciative of this palette. It could, like I said, it's just my mood right now. It could switch a month later, 2 months later, a year later. My feelings about those palettes could switch every time because, like I said, I love her formulation, and in terms of formulation, I love every palette I have from Natasha Denona. So yeah, but in a moment I'm just feeling this one a little bit more than my gold palette. Okay guys, we are coming to the top 3 palettes. Whew. And I can tell you right away, those are palettes with her newer formulation. Those are really the palettes that I appreciate the most, and I think her new formulation is so stunning and so good. So yeah, really love her new formulation. And on the 3rd place, it's so stunning. It could, those 3, I can tell you right away, could switch every time, every day. But today I felt like this placement, So on the 3rd place is the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. Whew. Guys, I love this one. I think this is beautiful. Many YouTubers I saw in the moment say, color and eyeshadows are a little bit more on the dead side this year and no one is interested in eyeshadows. I'm the total opposite right now. I just want eyeshadows in the moment and I really love them. And this is deserving to be on the 3rd place. I love those greens. I love those murky tones. I love everything in here. It's a summer and on the same time a fall palette for me. I don't know why. It's giving me both things, because it's reminding me a little bit of a summery, rainy type of forest. And I appreciate that so much. And it's relatively fitting for the time right now in Germany, because here it's also very hot, very humid, but very rainy at the same time. And I need to think of this palette when I look outside right now. So this is something that I really appreciate about this one as well. And like I said, I love her new formulation. It's so glittery, wet and stunning looking. I really appreciate that. So yeah, I have my fun with this palette every time I'm using it. I love my eye look again. I love the packaging as well, just FYI. And yeah, it deserves to be on the 3rd place. I really enjoy my time with it and I'm so happy I bought it on a whim. It was on sale and I bought it and I thought, okay, if I don't like it, I didn't pay the full price. But if I like it, I'm happy I got it on sale. And this is what happened with this one. And yeah, really, really love her new formulation and I really love this palette as well. Okay, on the 2nd place is the new palette in my collection that I also got on a good deal. And it's my Natasha Denona Xenon palette. You could guess, I think, guys, or with this eye look, you could guess that I have this one on in the moment. So I love it. It's relatively new and I know what you would say. You can't tell that it's your 2nd favorite just because I don't have it for that long. But I'm telling you, I'm so in love with her new formulation. I love this formulation so much of her. It's never disappointed me until now, so I'm very happy and excited. And those are colors, to be honest, that I really appreciate and love in the moment. I love those very more in the blackenish type of direction tones. And those are tones that are also with a blue cast, so a win-win situation for me. I already did a look with this one for myself, alone. Really loved it. Did go to work with this look. And I really, really loved it. I played with this shade Snowball. And I know what many people are saying, that this is not really a pink type of shade. It's more blue shifting. But I also put it over a more bluish base. So this could also be a factor for me. But man, it's a monochromatic palette. But guys, I really, really love and appreciate this palette. I think it's beautiful. I love my eye look. I love my eye look today. I loved my eye look the first time I used this one for myself. And I will show you now a little clip of applying this beautiful palette right here. I did go in first with the shade Blizzard and blended it all over my lid, a little bit above the crease. I left a little bit of the front portion out that I can play with another color right there. But yeah, I really put a generous amount all over my lid. And after that, I did go into the shade App. And it's a more metallic shade, but I used the same brush. It's a little bit more on the fluffy, denser side, and I really loved it. I put it at the outer portion of my lid area and worked it inwards. I thought it's so beautiful, and it's also with a slight bluish cast. You don't really have a black in here, you know? Every black that you have in here is with a slight bluish cast, and I personally really appreciate that because I love something like that. I don't need another black, you know, for my personal preference. And yeah, this is because I also love this palette so much, I think. I did go after that into the shade Gift with my finger. It's a beautiful, bronzy, more coolish type of shade, and I did put this one all over my front portion of the lid area, and I really blew this one a little bit upwards and out, and because I really wanted that you can see the beautiful sparkles and this beautiful shade that it's shining through, and you can really see it. So I really enjoyed this one. And after that, I did go in with my finger into the shade Neve. I hope it's called or spelled correctly from me. And I put this one all over my brow bone area just to give me this reddish, beautiful, sparkly look over there. I really love that as well. And then I did go into the shade Super Ionic, this really silvery shade, but very lightly with my finger, and put it into the middle portion of my lid area just to give me something else right there that is even more there and metallic and sparkly looking. I wanted something that's a little bit more, you know, effective and has a little bit more of a base pigment, but not too much, just very lightly. And I really loved that. And after that, I think I did move on with my lower lash line. And for my lower lash line, I did go into the shade Flurry and blew it all over my lower lash line. I really wanted that my lower lash line is kept very light, almost like I don't have anything right there, because I wanted that the focus is kept on my lid area. Just because I really wanted something very there but very light at the same time. And if you're just doing your lid and not your lower lash line, I think this is very effective for those types of shades. But I wanted a little bit at least there, a little bit of something. So I did go in with Flurry and blew it all over my lower lash line. And after that, I did go into the shade Rim, this very whitish light shade, and I used this one for my inner corner highlighter. And I did go also a little bit downwards with this shade to my lower lash line, just at the front portion, to give my eyes a little bit more of an opening up effect. And I think this worked very nicely. So yeah, guys, I hope I didn't forget something. If so, I will, you know, write something extra there that you know that I used something else as well. But I think this is everything I used, and I really appreciated and loved that look that you can see right now. It's a little bit, I think it's a half an hour ago I did this look, and it's looking fabulous. I really love it. It's so wet, so stunning, but at the same time it's very day-friendly appropriate if you are like to use that term, because for me, you know, I just use what I want to use. But this is something, if you have the feeling you don't want to go too bold today, you want something a little bit lighter, you can do this with this palette, in my opinion. I think this is a beautiful day-friendly look. But everyone is different, everyone has another taste on that or another take on that, you know. I understand, but for me, this is stunning. A stunning look. Really love it. I finished it up with my Pat McGrath Fetish Eye Mascara, and after that I also did go in with the MAC X Marilyn Monroe lipstick. I love it so much, it's so beautiful. And yeah, I really love that look today. I think it's very cohesive, very nice, but it also has something special to it anyways. So yeah, this palette needs to be on the second place, even though I don't have it for that long in my collection, because I just feel it right now, you know? I feel this palette so much that I wanted this one on the second place. Okay guys, if you know my collection a little bit, you know what will come next. You know what will be the number one. And I love this palette so much. It's the first palette where she introduced her... Was it this one? No, it was the Yaka palette. The Yaka palette was the introduction to this new formulation. I think this was the second palette that came out. Don't quote me on that. So, number one for me, it's my Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette, guys. This palette was my first palette, at least, with the new formulation that I bought for myself. And I felt head over heels with it. I love this palette. You think it's boring, but it's really not. It's giving you this wet, beautiful look. You have also a video on this palette on my channel, of course. I think with the most of the palettes that I showed you today, you have a look also on my channel. I also have a whole playlist just dedicated to Natasha Denona because I have some videos out there, you know, with her stuff because I love it so much. And this is my number one, guys. It's a nudie, very neutral type of palette, but it's so stunning on the eyes, guys. It's giving you a specialness, a beautiful sparkle, a wet looking eye in seconds, and every time I'm going out and the sun is hitting me, I feel like a little elf with this palette because it's so beautiful, and I think this is deserving to be on the number one. And nowadays, if I think of a neutral palette that I want to use for the day, my mind goes first to this palette right here because it's so beautiful and I really appreciate it. So it deserves to be on number one. I really love it. And even though it's just nudie shades, you have a little bit of versatility with dark brown. Oh, this is my favorite one, by the way. The shade Filigree, I think this is beautiful on the eyes. And also the shade Muse, so stunning. You can go more goldeny, you can go more, you know, brown toned, or you also can go with the shade Mia a little bit more on the cooler rosy side if you want to. So there's a little bit versatility in terms of neutral looks you can do. But all in all, guys, I appreciate it so much. And again, my eye look is coming out every time so beautifully with this palette. So it needs to be on my number one spot because I really appreciate, for the first time in a long time, a very neutral palette in my life. So this is telling you something, and yeah, really enjoy my time with this one. Okay guys, we are done. This was my ranking. I hope you enjoyed it. Would you switch something out? What is your Natasha Denona collection? How many palettes do you have? I think for me personally, 13 palettes are very much, but I need more. I need more for sure. I wanna also have some more MIDI palettes of Natasha Denona. I'm not done yet. I think she has so many more beautiful palettes in her collection that I want to explore. But for now, this is my collection and I really enjoy and appreciating it. So yeah, like I said, guys, tell me about your Natasha Denona collection, or if you have all the palettes that I have, would you switch something out? And what would be your number one palette? Let me know. Let me know in the comments because I want to really have a chat about that. And I'm also every time so interested in your opinion, why you like the specific palette more than the other, or why you would put a palette maybe that I put very low, very high. And that shows that we all have different preferences, different types that we like, different things that we like about palettes in our own way, and this is something so beautiful. And I would totally understand if you would put something that I put really low, really high, because like I said, I love every Natasha Denona palette in my collection, and if it wouldn't be for the ranking right now, I would put all the palettes at number one. Maybe not my mini palette, because this is one I really don't use anymore, and I'm thinking about to give it away, to maybe gift it to someone, but for right now it will stay in my collection. We will see. But yeah, all the other palettes I'm so in love with, and I won't give them away because I really like all of the palettes. I showed you today. And yeah, guys, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed it. If so, I would be really happy if you give me a thumbs up that I know that you like this kind of content. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and click on the little bell to get notifications here and there when I'm posting something new. And with that being said, I hope you had fun. I had so much fun. It was a little bit of thinking I had to do with the ranking. It was really hard, especially at the end. But all in all, I think I curated them pretty quickly for my normal speed. I normally don't do the rankings that quickly. I need to think a little bit more, but this one was relatively fast for me. So yeah, I really loved them, like I said, and I'm so excited for the next video with you together, guys. And until then, bye.